Oh man, the sun is out, I can smell the dirt, it's gonna be a good spring. Hey guys, so after my last video, some people were interested in some elaboration on the rigging system I used. We're gonna go over that here right now real quick. Basically what this is really useful for is when you want to use a different tree, a tree that you're not climbing, as a rigging tree. And that can be really helpful sometimes in certain scenarios, you know, storm damage, all sorts of different things. And so what we're going to do here can save you from having to climb that tree once to reset a block and twice to retrieve the block. So what we'll do is we'll start by throwing a throw line over the limb or the crotch that we want to use. In this case, I'm going to use a really low limb on this tree just to keep it, you know, all in one frame, so that way you can see all of it and it's, you know, there's nothing to miss, that kind of thing. It's hardly worth using a throw line, but I want to make sure I show you everything from start to end. So we're going to throw over this big lower limb here. Alright, I'm going to isolate that a little bit. Throw over some twigs. That'll work good for us. Now, the way we're going to set this up, we'll actually put quite a load on the rope that is holding the block. And so it's important to use something fairly strong. I just have my big 5/8 rope here. We'll use that for this demonstration. It's also handy to use a big rope because it will stretch less under the same load that a small diameter rope would stretch. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and pull this up over the branch. I personally always like to take my throw weight off of my throw line. I know a lot of folks have good success with just leaving it on there and either clipping or tying the rope onto it, but I have not had good success that way, and so I just take it off. You know, it's more reliable to me that way. So yeah, I just like to girth hitch mine on. If it's got to go through a really tight spot, sometimes I'll add some half hitches, but for what we're doing here, this will be good enough. Make sure I put my throw weight away immediately, otherwise I will surely lose it. I actually like to put away everything I'm done using as I'm done with it. It just saves stuff from getting walked on, tipped over, blown over, you know, all those things. Alrighty, I got this block out here. I just bought the big one just so it's easy to see and everything from the ground here. But what we're going to do is we're going to tie this on to the end of our rigging rope. Now it's important to consider what knot you're going to use when you tie this block onto the end of the rope here. We're going to run this system through a lot of loading and unloading cycles, and your traditional bow line does not hold up real well. Sometimes it'll want to loosen up or roll out. So what I like to do is just use a Yosemite tie off, kind of keep things more secure, and then I'll even do a little something extra with the tail just for fun, just for kicks and giggles. Make sure we dress it up nice, that way we don't have to worry about it moving around on us. Alright, and we'll take this top end, we'll probably just tie a couple half hitches just to kind of use it up. It's not going to dangle into our rigging system and get caught or burned or something like that. So now what we'll do is we'll take our rigging rope and we'll put it in the block. Just take our rope. I like to just run it through. You kind of got to plan things out, so we can make sure the block ends up with the pin side away from the tree. I like to just take the block through and then tie it back to one of the handles on my rope bag, even with just a little half hitch. And that way as I pull this up, it's not going to go up with it, because you got to keep both ends of this rigging rope down here on the ground. Otherwise it gets up there and the rope falls out of it and you've got to start all over, and sometimes your block will even be stuck up there because there's no way to pull it down. At this stage we'll just pull our block up into the tree. Really straightforward. Just get it up there like so, and then to anchor it, what I like to do, because you're never at the end of your rope, you know, it's never easy, right? I like to just walk it around. And then I like to tie a midline knot here and connect the two with a piece of hardware. The piece of hardware I like to use for this is a 5/8 Shackle by CMI. It's something they've taken, bored the threads out and put a Slic pin in, so you don't have to worry about it getting untwisted. I really don't know if you could use a regular twist shackle. I probably would avoid it if possible. You know, again, going through lots of load and unload cycles, I don't know if it would start to, you know, turn that pin out. There's probably other stuff you could use. Probably could use a steel carabiner. That would probably work too. I just have to make sure it's not getting side loaded, which if your tree is of any substantial diameter, it probably won't be. What we're going to do is we're going to tie a bowline on a bite right there in the middle of the rope. We're not going to use an alpine butterfly because if you've ever tried to load up an alpine butterfly and untie it, you know that they are rather difficult to untie after they've received a substantial amount of force. On the other hand, the bowline on a bite is super easy to untie. I've yanked on them with a truck and they're easy to untie. So we'll use one of them for this. Alright, if you don't already know, I'm going to show you how to tie a bowline on a bite. It's really straightforward. It's just a little bit tricky. You'll pick it up real fast. So what we do is we just take ourselves a bite, make sure we got enough. It does take a little bit with this bigger diameter rope. We make the hole just like you would if you're tying a regular bowline. Try to keep your strands kind of oriented nicely since they're doubled. We take the end of the bite, we just stick it through, and instead of going on up and around and everything, we're just going to take it, we're going to open it up, and we're going to put it all the way around the knot. Just like that. Again, we want to make sure our strands are nice and even and are going to be, you know, loaded equally. We don't want one that's way longer than the other or something like that. So we'll take our time, make sure we get it set nice. And then we can take and we can connect these with our Slic pin shackle. If you want a closer up look at this, there's just one barb on it. You just push it through there. It's recessed on this side, which is real handy. So that way it's literally impossible to lose this pin out. I actually really like these things. They're really cool. Anyhow, we just stick it through there, stick it on the rope there. Once you've got your shackle on, it's important to make sure it's rotated so that way the end of the pin with the barb on it is not against a tree, and then you're good to go. So now you can see the whole system. We've got the base anchor over there, the rope goes up over the branch, it's holding the block up there, and now we can rig on this side with a porta wrap just like we would traditionally. It may put a little bit of wear on your rope up there where it's rubbing on the limb. You know, it is close to the end of the rope, so it's not that big a deal, but that's something to be mindful of. It's also super important to consider the fact that that rigging point will be seeing as much as 4 times the weight of whatever you're rigging. That is because we're going to have mechanical advantage of this one pulley, and then we're going to have the mechanical advantage of the rope over the branch. So it's actually like doubled twice, if that makes sense. It's 2 to 1 that's hanging on a 2 to 1, which means it's going to end up being 4 to 1. So the reality is there is some friction up there, so it's probably not going to actually quadruple the numbers, but we need to plan like it is. We need to, you know, we need to know that we either need to pick a big enough union or not rig super huge pieces off of this system. Now, if that's going to be a problem, you need a remote rigging point where you can take some big pieces off of it. There's another option out there. Here we have a double ring sling, and it's got 2 different size rings, so that way you can retrieve it and you can set it just like a double ring friction saver. There's tons of videos out there on how to do that, so I won't show you that today, but it basically involves setting this with a throw line and then retrieving it with a retrievable ball that will only fit through 1 ring. This would only put 2 times the weight of the rigging piece on the crotch if you were to use this. And so again, if you want to take some big pieces on a smaller union or something, this is what you should use. It kind of takes a little more time to set up. You've got to isolate things a little bit nicer. It doesn't work out real well on a really brushy tree. This system, you can have that thing running through all sorts of stuff. It doesn't have to be isolated and have the 2 sides of the system right next to each other. And so this can be a little bit quicker setup and teardown. Speaking of teardown, I'll show you how to take this down. Super easy. You're going to take your shackle out, you're going to take your knot out, you're going to walk your rope back around the tree, and then you're going to pull on both sides of the rigging system to bring that block down to you. Once it's down, now you take the block off the ropes, and you're done. You untie this, you pull it back over the branch, and you're ready to go home. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this video helpful. I will include a link to that shackle in the description if you'd like to check that out. A bunch of people watch these videos, but only a small percentage hit that like button. So if you could push that for me real quick, I would super appreciate it. It helps promote this video and it helps this channel grow. Thanks again for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll catch you on the next one. I completely forgot to mention that there is also another alternative out there. I believe Kevin Ham sells it on his website. I'll put it in the description below as well. But it's like 100 foot of Tenex with 2 rings spliced on the end, and it works really good for this. If it's something you think you're going to do a lot, it's perfect. The Tenex has lower stretch than most of my rigging ropes do anyway, and so it works out really good. I'll also put a link to a ring and ring sling like I showed you here. That way if you want one of those things, you can find it too. It's actually a really handy device. I carry it with me on my saddle sometimes, and it's just really easy and light to carry around up there to use for redirects. There's always a way to use it: girth hitch it, half hitch it, just double wrap it, all sorts of different things. And so it's a good length and it works out nice.